Today, and we're continuing our conversation now. Rejoining us is Congressman John Mica from Florida. We are talking about the announcement just coming from the state dining room at the White House. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel announcing he has handed in his resignation. That resignation has been accepted by President Obama. And Congressman, before we went away for the commercial break, you were saying this is a convenient way for the Obama administration to dump Chuck Hagel. You believe that this is the administration trying to push him aside, not Chuck Hagel saying he's had enough?
Oh, definitely. I think that, in fact, he had most recently said he was interested in serving out, his last 2 years. He's only been there 2 years. He's done as good a job as you can, and I think the president has avoided his counsel, found his counsel that has been publicly enunciated contradictory to the direction the administration was taking. Again, you have to go back to the president calling ISIS JV team and downgrading its threat. He didn't want it to look too bad. And Chuck Hagel said it was one of the greatest threats that we faced. So that was one contradiction. Most recently on the Ebola situation, we have been sending troops over there, administration packing the place with our troops, and members of Congress felt that, they're the easiest to control, that they should have the 21-day quarantine when they come back from these areas, observe them. I know the administration did not favor that. He instituted after our hearing. So I think there's been sort of a constant underlying rub with what Chuck's direction has been and what the White House, the direction the White House wants to go.
Now, we can't really expect this administration to try and send a message to Republicans on Capitol Hill based on what we've seen in the past. But if he were to do that, who would be a choice to replace Chuck Hagel that you would say, Mr. President, that's a smart choice? Give us a couple names.
You got me on that one. I thought Chuck Hagel was a good choice. He is a Republican. He's done a good job. They're using the excuse, too, of now we're standing down in Afghanistan. There will be a different type of approach there. But, again, that's going to be the president's choice. He's going to have to get it by a Republican-controlled Senate. So hopefully it will be someone who's strong. On the defense side, we've got incredible challenges. This ISIS situation is very, very tough. Darrell Issa and I were just 3-4 weeks ago over in Iraq and met with the new leadership there, checked out what's going on. We'll continue our oversight. I think the stand-up was going fairly well, and Chuck had led a lot of that. And I don't think this is a good time to change that leadership. In fact, I think it's a very poor time to change that. But we do have good military. We've given them the mission. We do need leadership to cover their back, though, and hopefully we'll get that in place soon.
Well, we don't know how things are going to turn out when the Senate confirmation hearings proceed with President Obama's selection to replace Eric Holder. We don't know who the nominee is going to be to replace Chuck Hagel. But do you foresee a contentious confirmation process in the Senate with whomever the president chooses?
No, I think, Republicans will closely scrutinize. They've got control now. They have more than the 51 votes. They may play some games with cloture and some other things, but we'll see. But I think it's going to have to be someone in both of those positions. Eric Holder never should have had the position in the first place, and he's misused and abused the position. He's the first attorney general held in contempt. Just a horrible history of his.
I tell you what, Congressman, we got to step aside for a short commercial break. I'm going to ask you to stick around because we want to talk to you as well, aside from the Hagel stuff, about this Benghazi House Committee report that came down on Friday. Don't want to let that one slip through the cracks. Congressman John Mica, please stick around. Back with us, much more here on America's Forum right after this. Well, we'll ask that question. Why is that report full of crap? And does Congressman John Mica agree with Senator Graham's assessment. John Bachman, thanks so much for joining us and continuing our conversation now. Congressman John Mica, what do you think about Lindsey Graham's assessment of this House Intelligence Committee Benghazi report, Congressman?
I've only read a summary. I haven't seen the entire report. I think that the committee may be protecting the intelligence community. I don't see a great failure other than they're probably not giving the proper, the proper urgency to the whole matter. In that, and they may have failed in that regard. Again, I think the Gowdy Select Committee can go beyond just the intelligence. You got to remember what Mike Rogers did is just the Intelligence Committee. Now that first, it doesn't preclude the failure of the Department of State, led by Hillary Clinton. She was given intelligence, and the intelligence, in fact, may be correct that was a high-risk post. I know for a fact it was on the list of the high-risk posts, and failed to act to protect the ambassador, protect the post, and also make certain what happened didn't happen. So that is another possible failure. Then we do know the administration cooked the books on this, and they concocted a story to downgrade what took place. It was a terrorist attack. They didn't want it to be viewed as, again, quote from them, a policy failure. We do know that that's what they were doing to mislead the public before the election. So there's a lot more to be disclosed, and we'll have to look at, again, if the intelligence community did fail or did not fail. Mike Rogers' report said that it wasn't the fault of the intelligence community. That may be correct.
Well, we'll see when the report comes out from the Special Select Committee, but some folks have made a big deal about the fact that this report was released on a Friday afternoon, the week before Thanksgiving, and it may have been a dump. What's your assessment there?
Well, it could be. I mean, Mike is leaving. He is very loyal to the Intelligence Committee. I think that they probably had it right, but again, no one paid attention. Maybe they didn't enunciate it enough. And I don't think that they tried to cover it up. I think the cover-up was the White House trying a political angle to downgrade, again, the failure of their policy. We saw what Susan Rice and others did, and then the failure of the Secretary of State. And that's not what he looked into. He looked into intelligence. The intelligence community, it appears, fed to the State Department, and the post was put on a high-risk list. She did nothing about it. There was plenty of time. This happened at 9:45 over there. It was the afternoon in Washington. Plenty of time to act. I'm not sure. One of the things, and I got to go back and read the report, is I still believe we had time to act. That we may not have been able. Well, we should have saved the ambassador because we should have had enough folks at a high-risk post to protect it. And that's on Hillary's watch. But I think that we also could have saved at least the seals. And Daryl, Isa, and I just got back from checking on our current situation to make sure that we don't have another Benghazi. I feel somewhat confident that they're putting that mechanism in place in certain places that I don't want to disclose, but we can't have that happen again. I think it could have been avoided from the knowledge I have. We could have at least saved the seals.
Well, that is the assessment of many, and we will look forward with great anticipation to this report from the Special Select Committee, and also encouraging to hear, Congressman, that you feel optimistic that this won't happen again, because that's the point of all these investigations. Congressman John Mica, thanks so much. Thanks so much for being with us. We got to run. We'll be back with more here, talking to John Penkowski about your retirement.